Hey, it's Brian Stevens with CASA, and got kind of a hinky, weird subject to cover for you today, mainly because I want to increase your knowledge. I feel like, knowledge is power, and I want you to know what other people are doing to market and recruit your students. So look, this course is not just for marketing professionals. It's not just for the superintendent or aspiring directors and C-suite individuals in a school district. It is for everybody. It is for the frontline supervisors. It is for the secretaries at the office. It is for the people that mow and take care of our properties and keep it all beautiful and awesome. Every job is important, and it's important for every one of us to know in public schools what our competition is doing to recruit our babies, to recruit our children. It's a competitive landscape out there, and that's cool. I'm an American. In America, you want to compete, and you have Coke, and you have Pepsi, and you have McDonald's, and you have Burger King, or whoever, right? Competition is good for the soul, but you have to know what the competition's doing and how they're selling your families, especially when it comes to even retaining your students. If they're really marketing heavy and they're saying things to get your students to switch schools and to recruit them from your school to their charter school or their homeschool or their private school, then it impacts how much money you have left to train the kids that you have remaining. Because in almost every district across the United States, your budget is completely dependent on the number of students you have showing up. So if you lose a student, you lose all the money that goes with them. So I want you to know so you can start thinking about what you can do to effectively counter is probably a pretty good word, counter, but also how you can sell yourself, how you can market yourself. Now, one important thing about marketing, you're stuck with the truth. Not every competitor is. Not every competitor is, all right? And I'm going to get into some examples of that. So I'm going to throw up a slide deck here, and there will be a PDF attached to this so you can keep all this information. So don't feel like you've got to take vigorous notes right now. It'll come. But let's talk about like honest advertising, right? So this particular ad, and I kind of pulled out some of the slogan here, but it says, where's the beef? Where's the beef? So if you're not familiar with this ad, it happened, quite a while ago, but it used to be McDonald's. McDonald's was the number one fast food franchise burger place in the United States. Burger King was number two, and a little girl with red pigtails, right, Jackson? Wendy's was a distant third, and Wendy's decided that if they were going to become number two, they weren't going to beat McDonald's anytime soon, but they could probably beat Burger King, right? And so they started this ad campaign of basically you see the burger right here down here, little teeny burger on a really big bun, and where's the beef? And this lady that said it was where's the beef, and it's hilarious.
Very big fluffy bun.
Where's the beef? Where's the beef? Hey, where's the beef? I don't think there's anybody back there.
You want something better.
The entire ad campaign was making fun of Burger King for not having enough meat in their hamburgers. And people believed that Wendy's had bigger, meatier hamburgers than Burger King. Was it true? Did Wendy's actually have more meat than Burger King? Well, not necessarily. But it's marketing, it's advertising, right? And I want you to start to kind of take this equation of take Burger King, McDonald's, and Wendy's and other fast food places like Taco Bell now, and think about that as like the school competition. You have traditional public schools. That's who we represent. That's who's we try to take care of here at CASA, and then you have charter schools, right? Well, hopefully they're training the kids better, but not better, but that they are training the children well. But that's your competition, right? Charter schools, homeschools, that's really growing. Private schools, right? And kids not even showing up to school now has become a thing too. So you've got all this competition out there. So think about it in the context of like the burger wars. All right. Did I say that right? Burger wars. Okay, that's a tongue twister for you, isn't it? All right. So we start to think about marketing and advertising, and another, ads don't have to be true, guys. I know that you're subjected to the truth. I get it, but your competition isn't always, right? And I'm not going to claim they're going to be deceptive. Some of them are deceptive. Yeah, okay, actually, I'm going to claim some of them are terribly deceptive, all right? And if you're a school teacher, that's important for you to know, okay? Because you're going to be talking to your parents one day, and your kids are going to be, at the end, their parents are going to come in, and they're going to get some advertising for another school that's going to make it look like you're not doing your job. So it's important that you pay attention. All right, so these ads came out, and this was like in the 80s, and it was when fat was bad. I don't know if you remember all the dieting plans that said fat is no good. You need carbs and you need protein, but fat is awful. Fat will make you get fat. And I think most of us know now, and the science will say that's not true. Really what makes you add a lot of calories is sugar, because sugar doesn't, you need fats, proteins, and carbs. I'm not trying to be a scientist with you right now, but that's what our bodies need. It doesn't need sugar. But the sugar lobbyists started running all these ads where it was saying that sugar keeps your energy up and your appetite down. That's a lie. That's not true. It makes your energy go up for like a minute and a half. And then your appetite follows. So no, this isn't good stuff, but let's look and see what some of your competition's doing, all right? There's another course on here. I hope you check it out about what we learned during our national parent survey, where we ask parents why they decide to pick this school over that school and what are the main things that they look for. So that course is down there. So look for National Parent Survey, and you can find the most recent one if you're interested in it. But we really learned two major things in those polls. There are two main drivers that parents always look for. One, will my babies be safe? Will my babies be safe? And will they move out of my house? At least that's the way I think about it. Some parents would say, will my child be successful at whatever their given trade, education level is? Will they be successful? Will they move out? Well, your competition knows this also. And you're going to see a lot of this advertising they put out is talking about safety and talking about the future growth. So this first one's kind of interesting because it's implying, it says, delivering high quality education, no matter what zip code. Well, what they're implying is that they don't care where your child comes from. They're going to take care of it. But by law, public schools have to take everybody. So this is a little false. I mean, maybe for this particular charter school, they don't care where they come from, but we know that most competitors want your best and your brightest. They want your best and your brightest, but I love the ad. Like, they're implying that you, public school employee, don't care about every zip code. Like lights and bells should be going off right now and letting you know that, like, that's not true, right? And this one is, oh man, this one gets it because of that. The polling data we know they know. And they're advertising this. The difference is success, implying that all the other schools, from private schools to online schools to whoever their competition is that we're different because we're going to make sure your child is successful. What? Well, children can be successful going to all kinds of different schools, but they're advertising, they're leaning into something their targets, their parents really, really want and demand, which is a successful child. So they are out there putting it out there over and over again that your children will be successful if they come here. And so, like, my first big question for you is, are you doing that? If you're the front desk person, you're the receptionist, you're an enrollment officer, if you're communication, are you putting out that your children in your public school will be successful? And I can hear it. I can hear it. Somebody out there is going, well, Brian, we can't commit or make any of those promises. I mean, it's up to them if they're successful. Man, I get it, right? Like, and you're technically right, but you're losing the marketing competition war. All right, you're being a little anal, you're being a little tight. You gotta sell your positives. We were secret shopping a school district, and we went back and we talked about the fact that the school district, and we see this often, they were not promoting enough about their awesomeness, their like really good values, and how they were just crushing it. And all they were focused on is all the things that they weren't doing right, which is pretty admirable. It's pretty awesome that they care about improving. The issue is they really thought they had nothing positive to sell, and it broke my heart because they had so many cool things going on. And I promise you, every district we've ever worked with, everywhere we've ever gone, there's a lot of cool things out there. And like again, another one of the courses, we secret shop and we tell you what we learned. And just a little thumb dip into that is people always highlight all their bad spots. Zip it. You don't have to talk about all your problems. Talk about all your strengths at least, because you're in a competitive environment. So this one really jumps out at me. This one's kind of cute. Build your own school, like personalized, customized. You're not putting the bricks out there and literally building a school. It's advertising, not building a school. They're like maybe letting the kids pick some courses and stuff like that, which, by the way, a lot of traditional public schools have that ability too. So it's a good selling point. And if you don't have the ability to customize the curriculum at certain grades, you don't advertise that. And that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. If you're really going to highlight what you're good at, figure out what you're good at and highlight that, and just don't necessarily talk about the bad stuff, right? Okay. One of the other issues that we talked about earlier were the poll, which is, are they going to be successful and are they going to be safe? Well, here we go. We've got one right here that's talking about safety. And boy, if you can't read the overtones, teen busted at Liberty High School with more than $3,000 worth of cocaine. And look at this. They literally say it to you. I mean, they're not hyperbolic. They're not figurative. They are literal. Why worry about this type of student at your school? Come to us, because we don't have any bad children. None of our children would do drugs or drink alcohol or be nobody would. And I gotta tell you, if you've ever been around public schools, we had a daughter that was in public schools for a while, or private schools for a while. And if you want to know who got drugs, it's the kids with money a lot of times. I mean, everybody has access to drugs. Everybody has access to alcohol. I'm not saying that one school has more or nothing, but they don't know that. They don't have any scientific proof to prove that there are less druggies, right, Jackson? Druggies at their school versus another school. They don't have any data. They were literally taking an article and they're just pounding it into parents' emotional state, because they know emotions are why we make decisions most of the time. A lot of us, when we're making a buying decision, and I should say this is a buying decision for these parents. Now, it's a critical buying decision. It's important to them. And they're picking a school for at least the next year for their babies. So it's an important buying decision. But they're often led by emotions first, and they use facts to justify their emotional decision, right? So if you can get them emotionally believing that you're unsafe, they will pick this other school. If they believe that you're safe, they may pick you, and they'll use facts to justify. But this charter school does not have any data in a courtroom, which it's not a courtroom, it's the court of public opinion, to prove that their school is less safe than others, pound for pound, based on population sizes. So, now look at this other one. They're leaning into success, and you can see it right here. I'm sorry, my picture's kind of in the way a little bit, but our chess players are always a few moves ahead, which a little implication there. That they're just a little bit better than you, a little faster, a little, than all their competition. And so, one of the big takeaways with this is, are you advocating for your strengths? And I'm not suggesting you start making up BS like this, teen busted at Liberty High School with $3,000, worth of cocaine. Look, but certainly you could talk about your awesomeness, and I want you to continue to reflect upon that. All right. So I want to cover a few more examples. Sometimes I always feel like I want to rush through these, and it's really important that you understand that that your competition understands their targets and what drives them. And to make it really practical for you, if you're not dealing with your family's emotional state, know that somebody else will. All right. So if you're not answering their questions, if you're not leaning into their fears and their concerns, somebody else will address that. And so let's kind of stay in that safety issue for a minute. So this next ad, you'll see it's reasons why you should homeschool. So this is a homeschool situation, and they put that the child's going to get to keep their innocence, which really leans into that safety issue again, right? They're still saying that your child will be innocent and safe and protected. And I don't know Look, I think keeping their innocence is probably a competitive advantage of homeschools. If you don't allow your child out, you don't allow them to talk to other kids. I'm not saying all homeschools do this, but I can see a situation where if you never let your child go out, you don't let them see TV, you don't let them see the internet, you make them do reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? And study and do tests that you create or an online course creates, and you block out the outside world, you can absolutely keep them innocent for as long as you have them. Now, I think that's a competitive advantage of homeschools. And so I don't think that you could ever claim that as your space. So it's funny. One of the things that you always know in business is you're looking for what your competitive advantage is. What makes you special? What makes you unique? And in a sense, if that's the thing that parents want, man, I don't want that for my child. I can see why some parents would want that, but you got to give that to them. Like, let's give homeschools innocence. They're going to keep their innocence forever and ever, I guess. I want my child to be ready for the real world. I want them to have a little street smarts. I want them to have a little common sense. I want them to be in a problem-solving mood. And I want them to go out there and wrestle with tough situations where I can guide them until I lose, her off to college or whatnot. And so, look, I really applaud this district for driving in on their competitive advantage. So what's your competitive advantage? And somebody's watching this and go, well, that's not up to me. That's up to the district or the principal but if you're a teacher, if you're a front desk worker, right? These are the most vital spots, man. Those are so critical. You absolutely know what makes your individual school special. You know what makes your classroom unique and cool and better because there's something out there that's really neat. And maybe it's not, maybe the classroom size is a little bit bigger than some of the competitive schools. Okay, well, that's not the competitive advantage, but maybe you have really good access to computer labs. Maybe you have unbelievable sports programs, which a lot of charter schools and homeschools don't necessarily have. And people want that well-rounded student, at least the ones that see it as a competitive advantage. We were working with a district down in Texas, and we don't have a competitive advantage, Brian. We're not special. We're just run-of-the-mill, small district, a few thousand students, and there's just nothing unique. And I was like, well, let's break that down because I don't know if you've wrestled with that problem long enough. And we sat down and we were doing this, and I got to admit, after we went down, and it's a couple hours north of Dallas and stuff. It's way, way remote. And in the middle of nowhere, right? And just deserts and cacti and all this. It was pretty, but there wasn't much out there. And I talked to him on the phone a couple times, and I was in Dallas, and I was like, well, let me pop over. And I spent all morning with the superintendent and two other people that worked there in the office. It wasn't a real big office for this district. And so there's three of us, and we were sitting around, and I got to admit, I could not figure out what their competitive advantage is. I did not know what made them unique. I did not know what made them cool. There was a private school that's bogarting a lot of the rich people with a lot of assets for tutoring. So you get really good test scores left. There was a neighboring district that was bigger and had a better sports program and a better band program. Band, extracurricular activities, arts, absolutely can be competitive advantages. And then I was like, well, let's go look at a school. And then two things smashed me in the face. And I couldn't believe that they didn't want to talk about it. One was when I walked up, I saw these little drones, these little drones flying around. And I was like, man, you got some drone coverage. And they go, well, yeah, we start to actually give our young children, even in elementary school, access to learning about drones and that kind of technology, because we have a high school class that you can literally take about manning drones, because we have all these big Amazon warehouses and other companies that need drones. And so we starting to work on training them. I'm like, guys, that's a really bomb diggity cool program. How come you're not telling everybody about it? Well, we didn't know it was a competitive advantage. We didn't know that it was special. It's so special, it's so unique, and it's very, very cool. But not just because, guys, this is not just about you saying, hey, we do a drone program. No. It's about that you're a very small district, right, where everyone knows everyone, and that's the second thing I learned that day, but I'm going to get to that in a second. Where you're a small district and you have these really cutting edge things that you're thinking about and you're bringing in. So this is one example of cutting edge training and teaching that we're giving to our students, which also kind of implies you're going to stay on top of that kind of paying attention to the future, paying attention to what's next. And we're going to always be looking for new opportunities for our children. And here's one awesome example: drone practice, drone skills. Saw another district in Arizona. So I found two that are doing this drone stuff. And it was cool, but this district was allowing everybody to play with their drones. The other one that I saw in Arizona was only allowing like STEM people to do it because they didn't have as many. But this superintendent got like drones donated to the school. It showed that they were forward thinking. The second thing I noticed is I walked into elementary school and it was the most bright, vibrant place, but not because they had a new building, not because they had the most shiny of everything. You could just tell that these teachers were totally enveloped in showcasing why their students are awesome. It was all over the walls. And I said, your next competitive advantage is invite people for a tour. If they come and walk around this building, they will pick you over the competition, because I walked around their buildings too. And they just didn't have the energy you had. So the energy for success, the energy to really make these children stars was an absolute competitive advantage. So look, on this particular example here with the innocence thing, you got to know what you can't compete with. And just let it go. But you should start to fixate on what you can compete with. This next one is a main driver. And charter schools have got this one figured out. I mean, they have got it figured out. And I get into this in our survey results and our polling results, but I think it's in the Secret Shopper study that I really dig into this data. But charter schools have got this going on. Public schools do not. And private schools are kind of a mix. Some private schools do it really well and some just do it terribly. But charter schools have got the main driver. They ask. Now, you can't see it in this really, really bad thing. Let me clip to the next one. But they ask the parents to enroll. They ask the parents to stay. Now, I know. You're going, Brian. We send them grades. We tell them we love them. We say can't wait to see you next year. But it's not the same thing. And let's talk about political campaigns and voters for a minute, because there's a really interesting analogy. And the science about making the ask really started there, and then it's been translated into all these other universes and tested a lot. So in political campaigns, there's a person called a super voter, right? Super voter. They never miss an election. I mean, if it is an election for dog catcher, they're there. If it's a primary, a general, it doesn't matter. They always show up and vote. And they're very, very special in campaigns, because if you can identify someone that's absolutely going to go vote, you should go and talk to them and convince them. Unlike trying to talk people that don't go into going to vote, that's like a lot more work, because you got to talk them into going to vote. Then you got to talk them voting for you or your cause or whatever it is. But these super voters are really important, and they would talk to them at exit polls. So they would go in and vote and they would leave, and they'd say, why'd you vote for so-and-so? Why'd you vote for so-and-so? And way, like often, the voters would go, because they asked. They asked for my vote. They asked for my vote. And you'd hear this. And then people started doing focus groups on this. And I'm talking about going all the way back into like the 60s, 50s and 60s. And they started saying, why is the ask so important to you? Because it's my vote. And if you don't want it, I'm not going to give it to you. And the only way, now I'm paraphrasing, the only way that I know you really want it is by asking me. And it was so petty. I mean, it was so bad that you could spend, I mean, they had candidates that would, or an issue campaign. They would talk to this person, this super voter, for like 30, 40 minutes, answer all their questions, walk away, and just feel like it was a great conversation. The exit survey would say, did you vote for John that spent 45 minutes, or Shamika that spent an hour long talking with you about the subject? And they went, no. Why not? They didn't ask for my vote. I know. It sounds a little crazy. Now look, somebody out there is going, that's right. And then other people are going, that sounds nuts. So if you're in the that's right category, you can skip ahead a couple minutes on this video because I don't need to convince you that the ask is so important. But but a lot of other people, they go, but I talked to them and I held their hand and I carried their groceries in from the car, but you didn't make the ask. And the ask is so critical in all this stuff. And so, like, I don't know, I want you to take away one big thing from this course right now. It's you need to ask people to return to your school. You need to ask people to enroll. And I'm telling you guys, when we secret shop, they just don't. People just don't make the ask. They'll give you the enrollment package. They'll ask you if you have any questions. They'll sit patiently. They'll give you a great tour. Well, not all. They don't do those things always, but let's say the best ones will do all those things, and then they let you leave. And the funny thing is there's an old adage in car sales. I mean, I know, like I'm talking about hamburgers. I'm talking about car sales. I'm talking about voters. It's all the science of human emotions, all right? And getting them to do something that you're selling. So it's all the same science bucket. It's all the same research bucket, all right? It's all the same cognitive basis, all right? But so in car dealerships, they'll teach salespeople this all the time. And I actually did a little mock. I wanted to pretend to be a car salesman for a while and learn their training. And I love watching great salespeople work because you can translate that and learn that knowledge. So they would tell the salespeople, they'd say, if they don't buy from you right now, they're going to buy. They're just not going to buy from you. They're going to leave the lot and buy it wherever the lot is that somebody makes a stronger ask. And that's where you end up with these like really pushy salespeople that are like, they're so scared that you're going to leave the lot that they know you're going to buy, but not from them. And I need you don't have to become a used car salesman. You don't have to become a salesman at all. I mean, all those jobs are awesome. I love car salesmen. I have a little bit of a car buying problem. And Jackson, I do. Jackson, I do have a car buying problem, all right? And I admit it, I need help. I'm not ready to go to rehab yet. But you need to have a bit of this, make the ask, make people feel good. Principals, teachers, at the end of school, are you out in the parking lot at drop off and pickup saying, thank you for being here. I want you back next year. You can't just say thank you for being here. You literally have to use the words, will you come back next year? And that will help you. That's going to help you with your retention rates. It's hard to do. Who wants to go out there and sit in the sun? Who wants to go out there when it's raining and say those things? But you got to do it, man. You got to go out there and make that ask. And you see these big buttons enroll now on the website, and it's awesome. And you can't really see it on the thing, but they're making the ask. So I hope I convinced you to make the ask. Now I'm going to go secret shop your school, and you're not going to do it. And I'm going to get real frustrated because it is hard. It's hard. But the other thing that you've got to do is you've got to explain the why. You got to ask and you got to explain why. Well, why would I enroll? I mean, you made the ask, but why would I enroll? Well, I'm going to give you one more thing on the ask. I just can't let it go because I've been fighting with this for so many years. The number one reason why anyone gives to a nonprofit is because they are asked. It's not because they believe in the cause. People do give because of that. It's not because they just wake up in the morning and they feel like giving money to someone. It's because somebody asked them to give and then they give. So you have to ask. And then sometimes you have to explain why. And I'm telling you, charter schools are the best at this. Then public schools, homeschools are probably tied with public schools on making the why, like why pick us. And then private schools, and then some private schools kind of fall next. It's kind of interesting. Some religious private schools don't make the ask as well, and they don't do the why because mainly I think they have a reoccurring kind of audience that's feeding their school population. So you can kind of discount that a little bit, but you have to explain the why. And why would they pick this particular school? Why would they pick this particular district? And once again, it's a competitive advantage. You should pick us because we're the most geared towards making sure that your children will be successful and ready for whatever they choose in life. That's a why. It's not very specific, but it's a why. So that's something to think about is well, in this why freedom prep, it says, well, why? It's because our mission is to prepare your students. Duh. I mean, what else would it be? Yeah, but they still put it on their websites and they still explain it. So I want to get to a couple more of the why. So this one's interesting. You'll see this why choose our school, and they just kind of give a reason. I'm not going to get into every single reason why. You've got to pick that. You should have figured out what makes you unique and special, and you still should focus on safety, because we know that now when I say safety, I get a lot more to it in the polling video, of course, but safety can mean a lot of different things. It used to be bullying, gun violence, COVID, gun violence. So you want to have something that explains how you're going to keep their baby safe, how you're going to make their baby successful, and then like a competitive advantage. So 3 things, and we get more to that in the messaging course too. Okay, now let's get into some tactical stuff. We're really talking very high level at first, very high level. We're talking about 20,000 feet up. We're talking about high level messaging, high level competitive advantage stuff. Now let's get into some of the concrete tactical things that your competition's doing and that you can use also to recruit and keep your students. Now, I'm going to say this at least 2 more times in this course. I don't expect you to do everything. I don't want you to do everything. I want you to do just slightly better. Because if you focus too much of your energy on just recruiting and retaining students through marketing and selling points and all these really tactical things I'm going to talk about, then I don't think you're spending enough time really educating the children. And I know that's your first mission. I know that's what you came to do. I know that's why you don't get paid enough, because it's a passion job for you. And I want you to stay focused on that. And I think that's the right thing to do. I just want you to do just a little bit more over here to keep them students so you can keep your budgets up. So tactics is 1, chatbots. People are doing that. Now, the way these chatbots work is it's be on their website. It would be locked up with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of auto responses, but people feel like they're talking to a real person. I don't know if this has ever happened to you. It's happened to me before, where you're on a website and a little, hey, Brian, they don't say Brian, but hi, this is Maurice. Can I help you? And I want to reply to it, even though I know it's a computer, because I don't want to be rude. It's a bot. It ain't a real person. It's a computer program. And I have a hard time going. It's taking me discipline to go delete, delete, delete. So remember, a lot of your parents thinking that they're engaging with something here. It's a good little tool if you can implement that and add that to the website. We've done that for some districts. Active social media, they are going to be very, very strong on social media. And then, social media, earned media is going to be very strong. But let's talk social media first. And on their websites. And they're going to post a lot of things on their social media. Now, this could be a problem. So if you have a dedicated employee, and maybe it's not their full-time job, but it's a portion of their job, but it's a paid job, and they have a backup person, get crazy on social media. Do it, make sure they have parameters. They don't post things that can get you into trouble. But the key with social media is you've got to keep up with it. And this is the same issue with websites. Websites that have calendars on it and upcoming events that aren't kept up to date are worse than not having them at all. And so I look up, when we secret shop our school, you see the marquees, you see those, the signs out in front of individual schools, and they're like, Christmas break starts December 18th, and it's like January 20th. It doesn't give you a lot of confidence if they can't keep their signs updated. It's better to get rid of that sign. Now, it's better to get rid of the sign if you're not going to keep it updated. But how many teachers, principals, staff went by those schools and didn't say anything about that marquee? How many people in charge of the marquee got upset that people were saying, hey, the marquee's out of date? And they go, I'm doing the best job I can do. No, you're not. Go pull it all down, man. Let me go pull it down. That's hurting us because it makes it look like we're not detail oriented. It makes it look like we're not, that we can't get the job done that we agree to do. So that's what I mean. If you're going to do social media, don't turn it over to somebody that's a hobby farm for them and it just kind of works out if they post things whenever they post things. Or if they're getting ready to retire in a year and you don't have a backup plan. It's better just not to be on it because it makes you look like you just can't focus on the details. So it's better not to have it. Now, ideally you have it and it's active. When I mean active, reoccurring. It doesn't have to be daily. It Doesn't have to be weekly, but it has to be enough activity where they think that you actually pay attention to it and you're posting interesting things. So your website, your calendars on your website, man, if you're not going to put events on the calendar, just take the calendar feature off of your website. Now, I know that there's some districts that have certain legal requirements to provide certain color fonts and items on their website. You got to keep it up to date. You got to keep it up to date. Or you have to put a disclaimer that says, look, we don't have the staff. I always love this disclaimer. We are so busy teaching your children, you will find that this calendar will be out of date from time to time. Please let us know if you find an issue. But what you're doing is you're advocating. You're saying where we're going to focus is on the babies, on training the children, not on some website. Once again, because somebody's going to go, Brian said not to have these. Yes, I want you to have calendars. I want you to have social media if you can keep it up to date. I want you to have signs out in front of your schools if you can keep it up to date. If you can't, say uncle, learn what to say no to and walk away. The hardest thing is saying no to good ideas. But that's what you got to do to be really competitive, all right? So more and more tactics that are out there. Testimonials, really, really strong. Getting your parents to do a video or put a quote on a website. People love testimonials from real people, not fake people, not paid people, and not actors. They love testimonials. And these charter schools are really capturing it. And you've got fans out there, man. You've got lots of parents that are rabid supporters of just get a quote, stick it on your website, put it on a flyer, clutter material. You know, and I love this. If you can get parents to give the tours of your school or even students A+, we'll get into tours and all that stuff later, but I think that's a pro tip. We get into tours, obviously. A lot of you do tours. We're going to have an entire course that at the time of shooting this video, I haven't done yet. These tours are so critical. I'm going to bring a couple guests in, and we're going to bury you with like, what is a perfect VIP tour? What is a perfect VIP tour? Because there's some fundamentals there, and I want to teach you how to teach others how to give that tour. So be on the lookout for that. Oh my gosh, earned media. Now, earned media is a term of art in the communications world, which means free. Okay, so you have paid media and you have earned. Earned is like great stories. Now, I would say this. A lot of the so-called earned media, like opinion pieces you read in newspapers, letters to the editor, or articles written by the paper about a subject, are paid. Welcome to the new world order, right? Or there's something in there that lets the people that are writing it have motivation to write it. Now, it could just be you keep pitching. And we love that. Just keep pitching ideas to your local media. And the good, sound local media places, it's not a pay-to-play scheme, but articles like this can be bought. And there's all kinds of devices that you can pay to get articles printed that can be found on the website. And you see this a lot with like top 10, top 5. You know, I was trying to find a new leaf blower, and you know, what do you Google? Top 10 blowers, right? I don't know. So when somebody's Googling top schools in my area, you'll see these articles pop up, and a lot of them are paid. There are a lot of paid placement. Some of them are just good old-fashioned articles covered by real media sources. You need to cultivate that. You need to start developing relationships with reporters and local radio shows. This is a capacity issue. You got to have the resources to do it, but it's very, very cool because people will read this stuff and think you're the cat's meow, and that gets them really interested in your school. So once again, more tactics. And these tactics are, remember, this is what they're doing right now to get your students. And if you've got the resources and the time, you need to think about doing some of this. And it's just good old fashioned grassroots organizing. And you know, we learned a lot about grassroots organizing through running census campaigns for the United States government and through one of our sister companies. And getting parents to fill out census data is really tough. And so you look at this like going door to door, finding out who's moved to the area, finding out what new parents, or finding out what parents go to your school, which ones are the most at risk of leaving. And that's a whole nother, once again, sorry, it's a whole nother course, but they'll figure out you're most vulnerable. And they will target them. They will go to the door. They will show up at community events in the neighborhood, and they will just go out there. They'll explain why on their make to ask. And on top of that, they're making phone calls, phone banking. And, you know, one of the things that we have learned through through recruiting students back and retaining students is door knocking and face-to-face is invaluable. It's really expensive. It's really time consuming. Phone banking is pretty expensive, but it can go a lot faster. We utilize a lot of phone banking, making tens of thousands of calls, in a week. And so phone banking and smiling, and there's a lot of protocols for great customer service that happen to those, but they're calling your families and they're making the ask and they're doing the why, right? And now look, this is another thing, giveaways. You don't have anything to give away. Your budgets are tight enough. You don't have permission. You can't bribe them. And does it feel like a bribe? It feels like a bribe. I don't know if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck. It's probably a duck, right? And they're giving away some of your competition, giving away vacations, giving away free iPads, giving away computers, giving gas cards. You can't compete with that, man. And if that's what they want, you got to keep selling what makes you awesome, because you're not going to give them free stuff. Certainly they're doing mass text messages and emails. Email is a great form of communication, mainly because it's so cheap. And people keep their email address longer now than they keep a home. Think about that. It used to be you keep a home 7 or 8 years. Well, now you keep an email address for 20. You don't get rid of old, I know guys that sell AOL accounts. I didn't know AOL was still a thing, but they got their AOL accounts. So, all right, we talked a little bit earlier about this targeting going on, where they are breaking down areas, they are figuring out who your parents are, and they are going after them. I mean, these are the same tactics that we use to recruit and retain students when we work with districts. But I need you to understand that, please, I'm begging you to understand, is that they're very scientific driven. So you talk about like the art and science of communication, right? Art and science of running a great campaign to recruit or keep a student. And the messaging is all the art. Your competitive advantage, that's all the art. But the science is this tracking and all these different tactical things that they do. Door knocks, phone calls, emails. And so you're going to see them in neighborhoods with clipboards and shirts and signs. And we believe that it's best to go toe-to-toe with that kind of activity. But this is what's going on out there. And look, okay, so I'm going to get into one last subject. Cut you loose a little early out of this training session today. But my last issue is kind of this, I want to expose you to just how much resources that your competition is putting to bear on getting your students. And once again, I told you I was going to say this a couple of times. I am not asking for perfection. I don't think you should spend as much as they spend on marketing and communications. You need to spend some, and you need to be really tactical about it. You need to really use art and science in order to get those students. But the percentages of their overall budget that these charter and private schools are using just for marketing and recruitment efforts is way big as a percentage. So like this particular district, I mean, you could see that all their second line item, their second most expensive line item is student recruiting at $300,000. $300,000. They give basically $2 million. $1.2 million for teachers and administrative staff and all the people to actually train the babies. Well, they got a management fee in there for $271, payroll and taxes. This is the way to look at it. Instructional supplies and textbooks, $241, but student recruitment, $291. They're spending more money to recruit than they are in textbooks and supplies. I mean, I'm going to say it again. They are spending more money to recruit students than they are on textbooks and supplies. What? That's how serious they are about taking your students. And remember, when your student leaves, so does their budget. Now, the funny thing is they break out marketing. Marketing's another $56,000. So they got almost $350,000 of a budget that's got to be what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, around $2 million. Around $2 million. And they're spending $350 just to go get your students. Dear Lord, that's a big percentage. Don't do that, but like get in the game, right? So once again, just to prove that this is not one school district, I found other charts and budget graphs that went out there, and I'm going to ask Jackson to blow this slide up a little bit so you can see it a little bit easier. But you can see that they have it broken down into staff recruitment, student recruitment, and outreach. And they have massive budgets every year This is for KIPP in the DC charter schools. Just to get this, and student recruitment's the highest one. They absolutely get what they should be paying for. Outreach is the same thing as student recruitment, so they're spending a lot of cash on that. And anyway, you guys can look at these charts on your own. The slide deck's attached to this course curriculum. But you'll see this is a great one, is the little dark black graph is what public schools spend on advertising. And then you'll see the charter school go up and down. The charter schools are smaller budgets, and they always spend more than the public schools. That's a massive takeaway that I want to leave you with. All right, we've covered a mouthful. It's been a lot, and I want to kind of summarize this for you to kind of make it something that you can digest and take away. Number one, I want you to understand you're awesome. You've got some really awesome things, some great things about your school, your classroom. If you're in charge of the grounds of a school, if the maintenance department, there are some awesome things going on there. And I want you to start thinking about what makes you special, what's your competitive advantage. And I want you to start explaining it to people. I want you to put why you're special. If that's by individual school or individual district, I want you to really structure the why people should do it, because that's what your competition's doing. They're out there competing against you. And you need to compete too. It's America, and that's fair, man. It's cool. There's all too often, so many public school people they're into education. They want to train the babies, and they don't want to have to sell. They don't want to market, but we need you. We need you to, or your school population is going to dwindle because the other side is. So I think that's a really massive takeaway on this course also. Once you've got your why you're awesome, I need you to ask people to enroll. I need you to ask people to come back. I need you to thank them. I need you to use those specific words because they need to hear it, right? They need to hear it. And then I want you to start thinking about the tactical issues that you're covering already, what you're doing really, really well, and what you just don't have the time and the resources to do. I'd rather you do fewer things pretty good than do a bunch of things poorly. So don't have a vigorous social media account and all these different accounts and TikTok and LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook if you can't maintain them all. It'd be better just to have one. And I know somebody said, but we need them. We need them. Not if they're done poorly. You don't. Poorly makes you look, poor, right? Not poorly, and poorly makes you look poor. And so you want to look awesome. And so I want you to really focus on those things that you can handle really, really well. So make that ask, get in that why, understand the different tactical things you could pick too. Maybe you could pick up one tactical idea you heard, take it back to your school district, and start to implement that. And so I hope you found some value out of this course today. If you've got any questions, once again, it's Brian Stevens, and we'll have all the contact information there. And thanks for watching, and I hope you stay with us and find another course you like. Thanks.